Good evening, everyone. We are the Gratitude Girls.
Gratitude Girls are in the house. Hi, Lori. How are you?
Hi, Catherine.
I'm so glad that you're here. We're on the mañana time tonight, so thank you to everyone tonight for being patient with us. No matter what, we're here. My name is Catherine Sarah Myers, affectionately known as Rara. I like to walk into the room and say, Rara's in the house. I'm broadcasting to you live tonight from lovely Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, Canada. And I'm here with my amazing partner who holds the fort down and brings the wind and puts it under our sails.
And I am Lori Del Crodecki, and I am outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
Tonight, we are coming to you live to talk to you about 5 questions successful women ask themselves to get through tough situations. Oh my goodness, say that 5 times fast. The reason why we're here tonight is to give you a free coaching and training session in about 10 to 15 minutes. You might want to take notes. And if you're watching live, thank you for being here. If you're catching the replay, let us know below this video that you are on the replay. And if you can, tell us which one of these tips you really think fits you. So Lori, you know what they say? Well, we worry. Sometimes we just worry too much, right? You could be a worrier at heart and you can't stop. That's just who you are. But there's some theories and some, I would say, proven theories that over time, we can make adjustments. So even if we are a natural worrier, we can neutralize our tendencies to be overly concerned. We can work on this. So what's the worst that could happen? Think about that. It's a question that we can say that to each other as friends. Like, what's the worst that could happen if you did this? Maybe it doesn't seem so bad. Maybe the outcome seems a little bit lighter. So there are some papers and there's some studies. If you suffer from extreme anxiety, or if you know someone who suffers from extreme anxiety, this could make the situation worse. What we'd like to do tonight is to share a few things that can help you just get a handle on it. So let's ask ourselves the following question, and let's talk about it, Lori. First question, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Think about that in any situation, right? What is the worst thing that can happen? And think about that and then work your way back from there. So I know in the Christian world, a lot of times people say, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like you're going into surgery, you're stressing about the surgery. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, you can die and you can go to heaven. And maybe you don't want to die yet. Maybe you're not ready to die yet, but hopefully most people are going to go to heaven and that's going to be a wonderful place. So what's the worst thing that can happen? That could happen. And at least if you die in your sleep, then you died without pain, which is one of my, that's one of my I am statements. That when I do go, I go in my sleep without any pain.
And that's an interesting point about going to the end of something. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Go to the end. Think it all the way through. Like, this could be a horrible situation right now. My hair is green and I thought it was going to be, it could be a financial problem. It could be a health problem. It could be something as important as life or death. But if we think it through, we might be able to use some conditional logic to see how we would cope with that. Okay, let's take another point, Lori. What is the likelihood of the worst thing happening?
Yeah, and the likelihood, think about that. Usually it's not very likely, right? If you look at statistics or anything like that, so for an example, here's one that is personal. So I had, I watched the Titanic. I had a major fear of getting on a cruise ship. so much so that I won a cruise in a company I was with a long time ago, an Alaskan cruise. So it was Alaskan cruise, right? Up there with the snow and the ice. So my Titanic brain and I kind of freaked out, and I was like, no, I might end up in the water. And then, what if, if you don't die from the freezing cold water, then what if a shark comes by and they don't eat you real fast, they eat you real slow. And so then you feel it all, right? So it was like dramatized it all in my head to where I could not go. I was having heart palpitations thinking about going. Years later, I worked through my fears and I went on it. And guess what? I've been on like 12 different cruises now.
That's
right?
a good way to overcome it. Sorry, that's a good way to overcome it, right? You had the fear and then you found a way. Didn't you actually have a birthday party cruise?
I did. I did.
That. So thinking about the likelihood of the worst thing happening, and if that is a fear, like it was in Lori's case, well, look what that fear did. She overcame it. So what's the likelihood of the worst thing happening? Conditional logic. If you want to use your left brain, if you're not in that highly emotional state or stressed out state, if it's not highly likely of the worst thing happening, then the worst thing that could happen would be less than the worst thing that would happen. Okay, hope that made sense. Let's think about the strengths that you would bring to the situation if the worst thing happened. Okay, so I'll say it again just so we can wrap our head around it. What strengths would you bring to that situation if the worst thing happened?
Yeah, so that's where you just got to think about, and a lot of times you don't have the strengths until that thing happens, right? Like almost 9 years ago now, when I got the news that my kid's dad, my husband at the time, had passed away in a tragic car wreck, I would have never known how to walk through the steps of handling losing a spouse and raising kids the rest of the way on my own and dealing with all the new steps of a widow till I was there. Right. And so you can't really think about it because one, you don't want the worst thing to happen ever anyway of any situation. But we realize that, and a lot of times you don't get the strength from God, from your inner self, from your inner spirit, whatever you believe in, you don't get that strength until you walk through those steps. And then somehow you do get the strength. It still might be tough, but you do get the strength.
And that's a very serious topic. And what if it's something less serious, like technology failing? Okay, this is something that we've all experienced. What if technology fails and you're planning a presentation, a live event, a live coaching, you're planning to meet with a client, you're planning to meet with a family member, a loved one, and technology fails because you're depending upon it? What strengths would you bring to that situation? And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you know how to fix the technology. It could be how you cope with it or how you prepare the other person to cope with it. Not losing your cool could be a very big strength to a situation if the worst thing happened. All right. How have you coped in any similar worst case scenarios in the past? All right. How have you coped? Now, I just want to say something. This wasn't a worst case scenario, but I remember when we won our award, like I wasn't really prepared, right? It was in my I am statement, but I wasn't prepared to stand up and have my legs stop shaking to walk up onto the stage. And I wasn't prepared with what to say. And we have a video of that moment of both of us being unprepared, winning something in front of all of our peers. And how did we cope? And both of us coped. I'm not saying that was a worse situation, but I'm just taking it to a different angle for a moment.
Mhm.
We coped with it by being in that moment. So that's something you can bring to the table. How have you coped in a similar worst case scenario in the past? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, and that could be anything, and it could be tragic or it could be exciting like that was for us. It was an exciting situation, but it was one of those that we were, like you said, we were unprepared for because we didn't, like some awards in some companies, about them ahead of time. This award was a surprise for the entire company. Like only a couple people knew. So we didn't know that we were getting the award. So we didn't prepare. We didn't prepare a speech. We didn't prepare anything. And I think we were both as surprised as each other was of winning because we didn't expect it. We always think, oh, somebody else deserved that better or whatever, right? And so, and we just didn't even think about it. And then, and even though that, like you said, we visualized I am statements of winning an award and being on stage with Cody Bateman, but we didn't know it was going to be that day, right?
No, and nor did I bring the entire wardrobe as if I was going to win, because I might have brought a few other things. You really want to be prepared. So we were able to see carpe diem. We were able to seize the moment and find the good and the greatness in that. So how I've coped with things in the past is I stayed in the moment and we seized the moment. We made the best of it. And here we are living it over and over again and reliving that moment and sharing gratitude with others. Okay, let's think about what is your plan for handling the worst if it ever happens? Oh my goodness. Do you have a plan A? Do you have a plan, not a plan B, but A, do you have a plan? And do you have a plan for handling the worst if it actually does happen? There are some people in businesses that actually do plan that. Some businesses are the funeral business, insurance. There are lawyers, there are accountants, there are psychologists who specialize, grief counseling. There are people that specialize in the worst case scenario. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you might do that for a career, but even no matter what career you're in, you could still have the worst case scenario. You might work a job for another company and you might get the pink slip. You might love your job and you might think, like I know Catherine and I are both in a direct sales type business, send out cards. Most of you know that. But, a lot of people have told us both through the years, oh, I have my 9 to 5 and I make plenty of money there. I don't want to make any extra money. And like, I remember one time had a girl tell me, I can't make any extra money or I'll go into the next tax bracket. She was my customer, but she didn't want to be an affiliate. And she referred people to me all the time, but she didn't want to be an affiliate to make the money because she didn't want to go in the next tax bracket. And a few years later, she had gotten laid off. And now, of course, she never saw that coming and nobody ever could, right? But like, what if that happens, right? What are you prepared for? Do you have thoughts of what you're going to prepare for your income to support your family or even yourself, right? You have to prepare yourself for things for what if the worst happens in every situation of life. And even though you can't truly prepare yourself many times until you actually walk through those steps.
Yeah, the point about what we're discussing tonight is to go through this exercise. And it allows us, as we spoke about it right now, and it allows you to see, even if the outcome is bad, that you have a way of dealing with it. And it would also be helpful to do this exercise with a friend. So maybe not someone who doesn't know you really well, maybe just not a work colleague, but someone who you can ask, can you be the sounding board? Can they be the sounding board? Use them as a sounding board. A friend can remind you of your core strengths. Like my husband always reminds me, I know your husband does too, Lori, reminds me of what amazing thing I did. If for some reason I'm not like ear to ear smiling, he'll step in and he'll remind me of how gorgeous my hair looks today, or my skin looks amazing. Like he knows not to say, gee, I never ask him questions like, how do I look in these jeans? Or, what age do I look? He knows not to say like, you look good for your age or anything like that. He knows that when I'm not completely smiling, he'll go to my core, what he considers, a benefit or an asset that I would have. And he reminds me of that. And that's important because when you're thinking about some of the worst things that would happen, you want somebody there who's going to help sort of pick you up so that you can go through this exercise. It's not easy, but these are 5 questions that successful women ask themselves to get through tough situations. If you don't ask yourself the question, you won't know the answer and you may not be prepared. Lori and I talk about everything, and it is so heartwarming to know that you have a friend, a best friend, a partner who you can talk to about anything. And even if the person that you're speaking to listens or nods, and if that's what you need, they know. Your really good friends know when you need to hear something or say something. So we encourage you. Do you want to talk to us? We encourage you to talk about this. If you want to discuss this with us, and we're not one of your core friends, but you'd like to have a professional sounding board, then we can absolutely provide that for you. And if you have a thought about that, you can put that message in this video below that you think you'd like to discuss that with us, because Lori and I will talk a little bit more about how you can actually take it to the next step.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, having a coach to talk to about that also is a great thing. So maybe you don't have a spouse that supports you completely like we do, then yes, you can have a coach that will help you with that too. And so just like that, we have our what we call our private dining room that we are fixing to go into. And so it's for our private coaching and training clients. If you want to know more about that, go to gratitudegirls.com/coaching. If you do have a question or something that you want to ask us or a comment about this video, you can comment right below the video here. You can also go to facebook.com/gratitudegirls and send us a message there. And so we will talk to you next Monday night. We will be here. Same time, same place. See you next week, everyone.
Thank you.